FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
It's truly amazing, but something interesting happens at that point. He wins the Nobel Prize, as I say, but he wins it not for special relativity or general relativity. He wins it for an aspect of the quantum theory paper on the photoelectric effect, because they're still a little bit baffled by all of this. And what's interesting about that is at that point, Einstein is turning against quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics has at its core an uncertainty, the Heisenberg uncertainty principle, that it depends on your observation what the position or the velocity of a particle will be, that things are probabilities, as Niels Bohr said, as opposed to certainties. And Einstein, who's sort of done all those rebellious types of thoughts over the years on space and time and gravity, suddenly is becoming rather conservative. And especially because he believes in certainties, in strict causality. And what he says over and over again, very famously, perhaps his most famous quote, I cannot believe that God plays dice with the universe, meaning he doesn't believe that there are uncertainties. He believes in strict causal laws. He says it over and over again. Finally, at the 1927 Solvay conference, when Einstein says it, Niels Bohr comes back at him with, Einstein, please quit telling God what to do. Which raises the question of God, which surprised me somewhat. As he uses the phrase, God, I'd feel sorry for the good Lord, subtle as the Lord, but malicious he's not, God would not play dice. And people think, well, maybe it's a figure of speech. And of course, in the 20s in Berlin in the early 30s, a very secular period, everybody assumed he was an atheist and he was just using that as a figure of speech. And repeatedly, he says no. A famous dinner party I start the Einstein and God chapter with, a dinner party in Berlin, where he says to the hostess and everybody else, no. I believe in God. I have a very deep faith. My deep faith comes from the awe and humility that I have studying the universe. He did not necessarily believe in a personal God who you could pray to, intercede in our lives and give us a snow day if we hadn't done our homework. But he believes in a God, as he said, there's a spirit manifest in the laws of the universe, in the face of which we must be awed and humbled. To me, that is the closest feeling I can have to a cosmic religion, and to me that explains my faith in a creator and a faith in God. And people keep questioning him. A young child questions. He says, do you pray? He says, we're like a very young child who enters a library and sees the books. And the child knows, is dimly aware that somebody must have written the books and that the books have been ordered. And as we try to understand how that began and what created it, that to me is a sense of cosmic religion that informs me. I always ask myself when I do a theory, he says, whether God would have created it this way and whether God would have made the laws of the universe this way. So he's deeply religious and keeps saying, as fighting with atheists who keep, like Sigmund Freud and Bertrand Russell and others, he said, the fanatical atheists always try to use me. I worry about them more than about the fanatical religious zealots, because they too are zealots in their own way. And so he's there in this notion of an impersonal God, and it doesn't quite satisfy people. They don't quite know what to make of it. The cardinal in Boston still does a sermon, famous sermon, after Einstein writes an article called Science and Religion for the New York Times, saying, well, it still smacks of atheism to me and relativism. And so Rabbi Goldstein, Morris Goldstein, who was the head of the Reform movement in New York at the time, sends a telegram to Einstein saying, Einstein, please answer yes or no. Do you believe in God? 25 words or less, answer paid. And Einstein doesn't even use up all the 25 words. He says, I believe in Spinoza's God, whose spirit is manifest in the beauty and the harmony of the spheres. So it's hard for people to understand in a way, but I don't think it's that hard. I think we all have wrestled with this. Benjamin Franklin comes out in sort of this deist concept of God, Thomas Jefferson. And whatever our beliefs are, it's interesting to see him wrestle with it. And I think even if a cardinal and a rabbi can't understand it, most of us can understand how somebody would be wrestling with such a deist position.